Aha! Good morning all. Hang on. I think it's a bit... Is it cold enough for me to put on my hat? I think it is. Yeah. Just gonna sneak on my hat. There we go. There we go. I'll keep my ears warm. But yes, good morning to you, Cathology. How are you? I hope you're having a fantastic morning today. Like I say, should be all very good today. Pretty Bird, good morning to you. Good morning. Like I say, oh, what's that? The Cedar, Tilly the Cedar, good morning to you. David, good morning to you. Jay Clank, good morning to you. And hang on, that's Macklin, good morning to you as well. Oh, but yes, good morning. Hope you're all having a very good morning indeed. Like I say, we've had had a bit of fun and games this morning. That's why I'm late starting this morning. Essentially, went to bed last night just to fill you in. Went to bed last night, and this morning woke up and there's this random car there. No idea what time it turned up, but doors open, it's all crashed up, it's had its license plate ripped off. So yeah, I've just had to go and report that to the police, that's a thing that's happened, which is kind of weird. But yeah, whatever happened, slept straight through it. So yeah, random, but there you go. Oh, but yes, good morning, one and all. Like I say, welcome to the Good Morning Walk. Like I say, Joe, hello to you. Loki, good morning to you. Okay, so Mr. Ben, good morning to you. There we go. So, where to begin? Because we've had some proper fun and games this weekend. Well, not this weekend, but this week in general. And I think it's fair. You know what? We're going to start off with Ukraine, because I think it's fair to start off with that. Oh, hang on. You can't see me there. David, hi from Borneo. Hello to you from Borneo. always nice to see, we get, people watching from all over the place. Fantastic to see you all out and about on this fantastic morning that we're having here. But yes, Ukraine, it very much looks like that we've been seeing a lot of the action happen in the sort of northeast of the country. Well, it seems that in the next couple of days we are going to see unfold another offensive down in the south of the country. I think Kherson, hopefully I'm getting that right. Hopefully I'm not getting it confused with the other one in the north. But if this succeeds, what you could potentially see is a massive encirclement of hundreds of thousands of Russian troops. And this will be another embarrassing defeat, essentially, for Russia. And as you already know, Putin is out there making interesting threats, to say the least. because I think a lot of people have put it very plainly and clearly. What we are seeing is Russia essentially be unable to fund, feed, and even supply its army in the field on this massive scale. So if it can't supply its current sized army, then what on earth is it going to do when it has all these extra 100,000 troops it's now got to support, feed, and equip, and do it during the winter. And like I say, winter over there is pretty damn serious, you know. This isn't UK winter. This is like, serious winter, We're talking a point where you cannot dig the ground because it is that solidly frozen. This is why we saw a lot of very inactive movement during the sort of first stage of the war, and it wasn't until like the spring and the summer till we actually started really to see movement in Ukraine. And even then, that stopped itself, slowed down a lot of movement because, well, that turned into the muddy season, which in itself is a logistical nightmare for anyone potentially going there, or even sort of, having to fight, let alone, equip and make sure that your army is essentially fully ready and, raring to fight. And it's very, very clear that they cannot do that. That you've just got inept commanders, an army that just doesn't want to fight, and Putin is now getting incredibly desperate, where he's had to... Oh, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Joel Colston. Thank you very much for your support there. Thank you very much for the super chat. He's now getting very desperate, where he's had to, quote, annex those territories, but no one's recognised them. No one's come forward and said, yeah, we're going to recognise those territories, because I think even they recognise the fact. Hang on. It's too warm for the hat. Even they recognise the fact that, yeah, this is kind of dumb, this is kind of stupid. And of course, Putin going out and making essentially nuclear threats and essentially saying, oh, the US has set a precedent in using nuclear weapons. And you're like, what? And then we've often had this discussion before when this has come up, of nuclear weapons take a lot of money to maintain, because you have to constantly disassemble them, reassemble them, make sure that they are fully and properly maintained. And I think it was, I can't remember which channel it was that said it now. The US alone, I think, spends something like, I think it's something in the region of like $10 billion. It's some ridiculous number of actually having to just maintain its nuclear arsenal. So this is not a insignificant number. This is a very serious number. And we're also looking at the state of the Russian economy, where it really is falling to pieces, and he is desperately trying to keep it afloat by any means necessary, and trying to at least give the appearance that everything is all right, when it's really not. I think the more and more the economy starts to suffer, the more and more people will start to realise something's not up here. Because even if they win, these sanctions aren't going away. I can very much see these sanctions being put on permanently. And one of the big things that I think a lot of people have said recently that I've been noticing is you've had a big change away from Russian gas. Now, this was happening already, but the war has only accelerated. Hang on, there you are. A proper horse, there you go, so I can see. So this has accelerated it. And what a lot of commentators have been saying very recently is that this is the last winter where Putin can ever play the gas card. And you've seen this week, because this comes on to our next point, I think it's caused a lot of fury, because this is a massive Tory fail in many, many cases, which we'll get on to just in a bit. But we've seen that if Putin basically this winter decides to go, well, you know what, I'm turning off the gas supply, which he probably will do. let's not, let's not say this isn't something he's going not to do, because he's done this in the past to numerous countries, like just either turned off the gas supply completely, like we saw a couple of years ago he did to Poland over a dispute, or there is just him, shall we say, limiting the gas supply just a bit. Yeah, that's very true. Yeah, that's very true. Let's not forget the launch programs are still maintained on 5.5 floppy disk. Yeah, that's very true. Russia has always had problems with their economy, so it's not much that Putin can actually do to fix it. Again, very true. So when it comes to, well, hang on, there we go. When it comes to gas supply, we've been covering it for quite some time on this channel, that you've got essentially for years Tories closing down gas storage here in the UK. So now we are holding less gas than we ever had before, and there are committee hearings where you've got ministers going, so yeah, you're getting rid of all this gas supply, but what if Russia does this? And the responses are going to be played ad nauseum if we start to get blackouts or anything like that. And that has been one of the top things that people have been worrying about. What if you do get blackouts, this winter? And I know National Grid has come forward and said, at the moment, there isn't, but, and this is it, this is the but, this is only going to get blackouts if, Russia decides to just turn off the gas. And that is that's a possibility. So you've had a lot of people very much worrying about this week, about, probably for the first time in a while, energy supplies, gas supplies. And of course, it's raised a lot of questions. Morning. It's raised a lot of questions about, well, what on earth has the Tory government been doing for this amount of time, and playing very dangerous games with these, gas supplies. What's been going on? Why haven't they been a lot more switched on to this potential problem? And to be honest, it just comes down to the fact they just didn't really care. And, well, that really sums up the Tory government. You'll have to excuse me because I am walking right into the sun and I can't see the screen at all. So if I don't see your comments or anything like that, do forgive me. Hang on. Is it better if I... There we go. Oh, Kuthan, good morning to you. Yeah, exactly. Who needs gas storage? The Tories don't, exactly. So this is one of those things where we can have a real big push towards getting more renewable stuff going. And predictably, I called it. I sort of called it. Keir Starmer's idea of having a nationally run energy company that is going to invest solely in renewable energies. Many people on the left are like, no, we can't have that. No, we can't have that. And it's just like, well, hold on, guys. This is part nationalisation. And as I've said before, in many cases, you've got a lot of people who are very, very against the idea of nationalisation, say it can't work. But when you look at polls, there's a lot of people who go, well, yeah, let's give it a try. So this is it, essentially. This is nationalisation of energy. Yeah, it's not all the energy companies, but it will be creation of a national energy company, one that which you could use as a template to show and prove that nationalisation of energy companies works. And I'm just like, so yeah, that was a fun week saying that. I was going to do a video on that, but I didn't. Oh, hang on. Yeah, nationalisation works in other countries. Well, that's the thing. You've got to show that nationalisation works. And it's fine saying it works in other countries, but you will always have the Tory sort of trump card of going, well, we had nationalisation, but it failed. It didn't work. So you've got to rebuild the case to show that, yes, nationalisation can work in this country, because the Tories don't give a damn if nationalisation works in any other country, because they just won't give a damn about that argument. You've got to show that nationalisation works in this country. And that's why it's such a good policy. The left, regardless of whatever, where you sit on the left, you should be supporting this policy, because if you can get it to show that, yes, nationalisation works, then you can just go, well, if we've got, I forget what Starmer's calling it. I think it's like the Great British Energy or something like that, I think he's calling it. If that works, you can then roll that out to sort of, other nationalised companies. We saw, a couple of months ago, we had energy companies fail. There we go. Oh, I don't know what it is. Every time we walk through that spot, it disconnects. But hopefully we're back. Hopefully we're back. There we go. Oh, but yeah, every time we've walked through that spot, we've always disconnected. So hopefully we are now back. Hopefully that's not going to happen again. But it's always in that spot for the past couple of weeks. I don't know what it is. I don't know what's changed. But interesting. But yeah. Anyway, so that's been sort of the big energy kerfuffle. And of course, following on from sort of the stuff with Russia, needless to say, stuff in the south of Ukraine, I think is going to happen this week. I think you're going to see big plays. I think you're going to have yet another, probably, very big victory for Ukrainians down in the south, and another very, very embarrassing defeat for Russia. And of course, as they say, winter has indeed come, and it's going to make supplying those troops and making sure that they're at least well looked after. And bear in mind, we've seen the conditions that some of these Russian troops have been living in from the recaptured towns. Yeah, it doesn't look very good. It doesn't look very good for them at all. So definitely keep an eye on that one this week, guys, because I think there's going to be some big moves this week. Very, very big moves. Will Putin deploy his nukes? I very much doubt it. To be honest, I don't think they work. Let me put it that way. I don't think that Putin's nuclear stockpile actually works. In fact, I'm very interested in doing another video on, if you may remember, we covered Scott Ritter, the fantasy general out there. Very, very pro-Russian, very anti-American. So it might be worth covering what he's had to say. You notice the Duran as well being very, very quiet on a lot of the Ukrainian front. In fact, most of the pro-Russian sort of social media people have gone very, very quiet on this. Why? Because the Ukrainians are, well, they're winning on the battlefield, and that goes against all their stuff. So yeah, the tankies, exactly. These crazy tankies going out there and sort of continuing to pull this type of stuff. They've gone very, very quiet all of a sudden. You know, you can't help but wonder why. But anyway, back to the UK. Well, as some of you have known, we had a Tory conference. Did you have a oh, hang on. Let me just get in the shade there. I can read it. There we go. So, Tilly the Coder, do you think Starmer will have to be reliable on the Murdoch Press, or because of Truss's massive failures that it will be able to be free of the right-wing press? Unfortunately, you can't be free of it. That's the unfortunate thing, because so much of our press is right-wing, and we can't escape that, unfortunately. And Blair did this right. Blair did such a good PR moves that even the right-wing press were like, oh, he's too good at PR, which eventually they started attacking him on, oh, he's like, he's such a spin doctor. He's too good at like playing the PR game. We can't seem to attack him on sort of usual routes, which okay is fine, but unfortunately a lot of people on the left took that to basically mean that oh, Tony's in bed with the media. And unfortunately, Starmer will have to deal with the Murdoch Press, like it or not. And you can sort of, in a way, liberate yourself from it. I mean, Starmer should definitely lean more to doing more stuff with like the BBC and ITV and Channel 4. But he should also start doing, live streams and, stuff on, with social media. He can sort of bypass the Murdoch Press in many, many ways, but you can't not deal with them, because they unfortunately make up a large chunk of our media. There's no way they can just say, we're not going to engage with you, if you see what I mean. And if you want a perfect example, just look at what happened to Corbyn. Corbyn got absolutely dragged left, right and centre through the hedge by the right-wing press and their sort of anti Corbyn rhetoric because he did not play the game. And the thing is, if you don't play the game, someone else sets the rules for you. And that was a large part of some of Corbyn's failings, that he did not play the PR game. And I've said that multiple times. You've got to play the PR game. If you don't, someone else plays it for you, and they might not play it in your interests. So he will have to play a PR game, and unfortunately that's going to upset a lot of people. A lot of people on the left, because you've got to play the PR game. You cannot play it, essentially, or else, well, Murdoch plays it for you. Well, Fakasm, good morning to you. So, well, Tory Conference, to be honest, we're still having the fallout. We are still having the fallout from the Tory Conference. And I've said this numerous times. I've said this numerous times on this stream. Look back at history. Look back at history. At revolutions. And what happens to most revolutions? They go quote unquote wrong because most of the time the ultras take over. Look at the English Civil War. Look at the fact that the army, Parliament's army, nearly rebelled at one point. And luckily, Parliament managed to keep it under control. But if the parliamentary army had rebelled, that would have changed UK history completely, undeniably. It would have been, who knows what form of government we would have today if that had happened. But that is what is happening now with Brexit. They're in control. We've said this before, even more so than Johnson's government. So they're now in control. They have no one else to blame, because any mistake they make is entirely theirs. This entire mini budget, who are the ones who are most supporting the mini budget? It's the hardcore ultra Brexiteers. And as I've said to you, if you want to really understand, Truss's government and these crazy libertarian moves it's about to be pulled, you've got to read Britannia Unchained. If you read that, you'll understand what's coming. And it's, again, Truss even said in her speech, she's doubling down on tax cuts. She's going to double down on more spending, which is not going to be good for the economy. We're already looking at a lot of problems in the UK housing market. And the thing is, the UK is heavily invested in its property, which is a problem. But we are going to potentially see, I think, a housing crash. Just said I've got a friend who's a solicitor, and their work slowed down a lot recently. She's had more work to do because of these rises. But you look at the estate agents, and they're slowing down a lot, which isn't a good sign. And I think that we're looking forward to the OBR report, which, if it is true, does not bode well for Liz Truss. Because apparently the OBR, someone has leaked the OBR report, and they're expecting, it's not a leak of the report, it's insiders have said, we're expecting the OBR to say this. And we could be looking at a 60 to 70 billion pound hole in UK finances. And that's only the mini budget. You know, remember in November at some point, the Chancellor is going to announce he's going to do his autumn statement, his autumn budget. And then we're going to see huge changes. And we don't know how bad the reaction of the markets is going to be to that statement, because it is going to be the announcement of, well, we're having more tax cuts. And, you know, we're going to borrow more. And the big problem is with this libertarian ideology is that they've said, oh yeah, we don't care about the budget. We don't care about the deficit, shall we say? Because as far as we're concerned, that doesn't matter. That just goes out the window, which goes completely against every single, you know, economic thought and economic wisdom ever. Even left-wing economic wisdom says you cannot not worry about the deficit, you know, about, you know, a country's debt. It's an important thing you have to worry about and always have to think about when you are planning economic moves. Because if you don't, this can lead you into a lot of trouble. And in Britannia Unchained, they constantly say that the UK debt doesn't matter, that they can borrow their way out of this. And unfortunately, I think that is what we're going to see at the next big budget, which will be in November. And I've said before, November, I think, is when everything could come to a head. I think you've got such a cost of living crisis, you've got an energy crisis, you've got, well, we'll have to see how much of an impact it has, but Don't Pay UK have come into essentially effect as of October 1st. So we're going to have to see how many people actually stick to their guns on the, you know, on that promise. So that could have maybe an effect, but again, we'll have to see how many people stick to it. We just don't know what else they're going to plan. That's the big thing. And I'm very, very concerned, as I've said before, about those enterprise zones, what impact they are going to have, not on nationally, but locally as well. I think those local enterprise zones could have a lot of negative impact on areas. Because at the moment, we don't know what exactly they're going to do. We know it's less regulation and less tax, but in what way? Because a lot of councils rely, or have at least been able to get through austerity because of their business rates. And now, if you're going to get rid of said business rates, hang on, pony on the path. Morning. I know, don't have anything for you, sorry. That's it, off he trots. But yeah, if you don't have these, you know, things in place, all of a sudden councils lose even more money. They lose even more money than they've lost already because of austerity. And pretty much, you know, the Tories have forced local councils, really since they came to power, to sort of bear the brunt of austerity. And it is local councils who are ultimately very much responsible for the services in the UK that we expect, you know, to run and to have. And it's just going to be, if that happens, and I've thought about this before, what happens if we get a case where, let's say, these local enterprise zones start coming in and start draining local council budgets even more? Well, do we see local councils start to go bankrupt or declare bankruptcy? That is a big worry. Now, of course, the Tories will defend it and they will probably say, oh, look at this Labour council going bust or whatever. But ultimately, it will be the fault of, well, the Tory government. They're the ones who dish the money out to local councils. They're the ones who have deprived them of that money. And then those local enterprise zones have deprived local councils, potentially, again, because we don't know the rules yet, what they're going to be for these enterprise zones, of even more money. It's really, really worrying. And you've got nurses going on strike, and that is not going to play well for Liz Truss either. I mean, we'll know when, I think we know when they officially, whether they're going to go on strike or not, I think soon, because I know they're being balloted at the moment, but I don't think we've heard either way. But to be honest, I'm fully expecting them to come back with like a yes verdict of yes, we are going to go on strike. And that's not going to play well for Liz Truss at all, because as one Conservative already put it just this week, you cannot clap for the NHS one day and then give millionaires and billionaires a tax cut the next. It doesn't make sense. So she's going to be in a very, very bad position. And the thing is, if she gives in to one of these, well, then she has to maybe even give in to sort of the other unions as well. And it wouldn't surprise me if we do actually get a national day of striking. And remember, criminal barristers are still on strike. And I want to remind people of that. So our legal system currently is still not functioning. And I'm laughing. And I know people have sort of had a go at me for laughing, but I just don't get, honestly, what a state we are in, and something that we've run ourselves into. But yeah, essentially, I think if you look at the polls that have been coming out recently, I think someone said it in the chat recently. I saw you in the chat mention the polling, and it's not looking good for the Tories. They are looking at a complete wipeout potentially at the next general election, and to be honest, good. They don't deserve, I think, after this, to be anywhere near the wheels of power ever again. And I would hope that Starmer would get the message and bring in proportional representation. But here's what I've said we need to do. Now we've got that vote passed. We now need to start putting pressure. We now need to start applying more pressure to start getting that done. So, as I said before, it's a big victory, but we need to sort of continue that pressure, continue building that pressure to get sort of proper proportional representation done. And we've got to be careful that what happened last time doesn't happen again. That instead they go, oh, well, we'll choose AV proportional representation, which is basically a light version of, well, first past the post. Stanley Beckett, general election is 2 years away. A lot can happen, indeed. I don't think. Well, here's the thing. If the Tories generally want to try and preserve themselves, they've got to try and avoid a general election at all costs. Because there is absolutely no way whatsoever do they win the red wall on Liz Truss's crazy right-wing libertarian policies? They are not winning the red wall on those policies at all. They are going to lose a lot of seats down south to probably the Lib Dems, because they've gone that far to the right that there's a lot of people who are on either centrists or sort of like right centrists who are going to be like, yeah, this isn't the Conservative Party anymore. And that is a message we need to start, I think, spreading, that this is no longer a Conservative Party, it is a Libertarian Party. And I'm going to try and reach out to some American content creators in a bit, who again sort of do politics, because I want someone to come who's in America, who've experienced like libertarians as part of their daily sort of almost, political interaction. Because us in the UK, we don't have a lot of libertarians. We've never really experienced libertarians or libertarianism, I suppose you could really call it, properly. Chatty rat. There'll be no public sector strikes in Ireland this winter. Unions and governments have reached a pay agreement with public sector, and union membership have all approved after ballots. Yep. This is it, Liz Truss is going to have to climb down on these unions. She's going to have to climb down. She will have to do a deal. There's no way she can't. Otherwise, you're going to get strikes after strikes after strikes. And like we are seeing at the moment with the trains. In fact, there's one today happening. So it hasn't really had a full effect yet on sort of her, but I fully expect it really to be starting to really be kicking in, especially during the winter. Because I'll tell you now, there is nothing worse being stuck on a platform during the winter. In summer it's fine, but the second winter comes in, you can't really do it. Bakura, how likely is there to really be an early general election? I think it depends how the next couple of weeks go. I think you've still got a lot of Tories very, very angry at Liz Truss, at her cabinet, for doing all these things. You've heard, shockingly, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but I agree with Nadine Dorries. You cannot abandon 2019's manifesto promises and pledges without a proper mandate. I know that sounds crazy, but Nadine Dorries actually said that, and I agree with her. I agree with her. And the Tories know the polls. They're watching the polls just like anybody else who has an interest in politics would be. But they're watching the polls as well. They're looking at it and going, yeah, this isn't good. And they're going to do everything in their power to try and avoid an early general election, because they know if they go for an early election, the chances are that, well, they just get wiped out. So it's going to be one of those questions of what do you do and how do you avoid an early general election? So there's rumours of Penny Mordaunt and Rishi Sunak maybe pulling a coup and basically saying to Liz Truss and Kersey, well, okay, we're in charge now, so we are going to have to keep a very, very close eye on Penny Mordaunt and Liz Truss for the next couple of weeks, because what they do could very, very much determine what happens. Because if they take over and they sort of go, look guys, business is back to normal, and they sort of calm the Tory party down a bit, then at that point we're not going to have an early general election. It will be 2 years away, because they need the next 2 years to try and prove that they are, somewhat of a, again, it's laughable, but a responsible government. They've very, very much blown all that out of proportion. And certainly they've lost a lot of credibility. So the next couple of weeks are going to be very, very interesting to watch. Certainly we're probably going to see a lot more U-turns, but it's just how many U-turns will be enough to quiet the party down when you've got Liz Truss and Kirsty Keating both saying that they are going to double down on their sort of morning. They're both going to redouble down on their ideology, their libertarian ideology that they are very, very much pushing. How do they sort of get around it? Now, of course, she said, I didn't lay the groundwork properly. But how do you sort of lay the groundwork for a budget that the markets are not going to react well to? I really don't see it. And I think a lot of people have said, they're giving up until Christmas. I think we're looking at how the next 2 weeks are sort of perceived by the Tory government, how they are perceived and how well they do in the next couple of weeks. And to be honest, that is not going well for them at all, to say the least, given how much Tory infighting there still is. And when you've got, as I said in a couple of my videos this week, when you've got Brexiteers falling out with Brexiteers, that sends a very, very strong message that there is something deeply wrong in the party. So we've certainly got a lot of probably interesting times and fights ahead of us. I know a lot of people were sort of highly expecting sort of proper blue on blue, fighting and actions, but I think that's potentially what we are in for over the next couple of weeks, because they haven't calmed down. Liz Truss is out of the country at the moment. What's going on? Liz Truss is out of the country at the moment on her little sort of European redo tour, and as I said in my Good Morning Short this week, it's a massive climb down from positions that she and others have espoused before about Europe and what the UK wants to do in Europe. Anyway. I don't have anything for you either, sorry. But yeah, that is very, very much the case of the current Tory party. They're in an absolute terrible state. I think Liz Truss has really, really grabbed the wheel and really turned the party towards the far right in certainly directions and ways that even their own fellow Conservatives find it difficult to realise that some of these policies are sort of right-wing, but they're even too right-wing for some Conservatives. And this is why I've said we need to start getting the message across that this is no longer the Conservative Party, it's the Libertarian Party. And certainly getting through proportional representation would be an absolute fantastic win for us if we can sort of achieve that. So that is what we need to, I think, really push for, to be honest. And I think we need to start putting pressure on Starmer to do it. So, with that said, thank you very much for everyone joining me this morning on the Good Morning Walk. Like I say, please do remember to hit that like, share and subscribe button on your way out. And of course, down below there are links to my Patreon page, my one donation link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can buy me coffee. There is the YouTube thank you button. There is the Pony Club you can join as well, where you can sort of get badges, emojis, and all kinds of fun stuff. You also get a free super chat a month as well, which I've said before. So as always, like I say, here we are in the wonderful UK, wilderness up here in Yorkshire, enjoying the nice weather while we can. So, as always, oh, by the way, next weekend, I will probably be in Ireland next weekend, because I'm off to the Jason Island National Conference next weekend. So we could be having a good morning walk from somewhere in Dublin. Don't know where we'll have it, but we'll have it somewhere. Like I say, I will make sure to sort of do something in Dublin, and of course I'll be probably doing some videos from Dublin that week as well, so watch out for those. So yeah, we've got a lot of fun stuff coming up. Look out for that, look out for the stuff. Phoenix Park, I'll look into that. Catherine G, thank you very much. And as always, like I say, thank you very much for coming along and joining us. As we always say, if you can't be safe, be sensible. Go out, enjoy your weekend, and we'll say, yeah, take your break. And as always, have a fun weekend, and of course, we'll see you next time for another Good Morning Walk.